and figure out what's in between those spots. It would just be a learning curve of what do you need, what do you want, what do you need, what do you want, kind of struggle for me, I guess, at this point.
Can you describe your working relationship with other organizations or governmental entities?
With Hearst Office Supplies, we sell on the SGA contract, or GSA contracts and FSSI contracts. So on the vendor side, I understand how you guys purchase and how you buy. Now, I've never done the other side of government accounting because I am in retail right now. But we do help with bids and budgets for them and help them understand how to buy this or that, or are you looking for office supplies and what level of office supply are you looking for? Are you looking for something that's gonna last you a year, last you 10 years? And kind of help them lean them toward the right goals.
Okay. Can you provide a specific example how through a collaborative partnership you reached a successful resolution to a controversial problem?
So when I started at Hearst, like I said, the owner was there and she'd been doing what she'd been doing for a very long time. And 90% of the staff had been there 20 to 30 years. So they had been doing things the same way for 20 to 30 years. And with every market, you have to be acceptable to change and updating and developing. Most people in the building, once you got to know them and you kind of did things their way for a little while, they would lean toward letting you change it or adapt it a little. But you had to understand how their change process worked before you could do that. And I had one lady who had been there almost 45 years. And she was the accounts payable clerk. And she'd been doing it her way for 45 years. And there was no better way to do it. No. So I want to say about 6 months in, I sat down with her and actually shadowed her for like 2 weeks and said, hey, show me your processes. Show me how you do it. I want to see it. And she's like, well, I'm open to that. And we sat down and we worked very, very hard together. And then I said, okay, well, what if I can save you 10 minutes a day? And we started working on saving 10 minutes a day. Well, in the end, we updated and created procs that would manually do, I want to say 25% of her job. And she's older, so she's like, I love it. I'm not going to have all this overtime anymore. I get to go home. So it ended up being a win-win. But I had to get to know who she was before I could change her job. Because at first she was like, I don't even want to talk to you about it. Please go away.
Good. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about budget management. Of course, budget is a central theme to this position, so there's a handful of questions throughout this. We'll cover budget, but can you tell us a little bit about your experiences, if any, with public sector budget management?
No, not with public. I mean, with Green Metals, we worked very, very closely with every location to create budgets. And when we created those budgets, they had to live by them. We did weekly variances, monthly variances in order to help them do that. So there was a variety of things that we provided to the managers and locations, and not just the managers. Like we would have the admins involved and the people who were buying stuff involved, so that everybody understood, and they had to live within these restrictions. And if those restrictions didn't work, then you had to change the budget next year. You can't do anything about it this year.
Right. It's a long question. So what did you find to be the most challenging part of that budget building process in your involvement?
In my involvement, it was actually getting the managers involved. They would be busy with 100 other things and only have like a 10-minute window to give you the information you needed. So you had to be very specific on what you needed with them to help build their budget and to help maintain their budgets.
Okay. And what actions do you think helped you get the approval of your proposed budgets?
We had
Techniques. Yeah.
we had criteria. We couldn't be within 15% over previous year, and we had if we went down from our budget on our actual numbers, we had to be 10% lower for the next year. So we had a set number range that we had to be in, and if you were in that range, they were like, approved, move on.
Okay. Can you tell us about the greatest achievement that has helped you move your most recent organization forward? What's your greatest achievement?
At the organization I'm with now,
It could be, well, the question does say most recent organization forward, but you can make a strong case for other agencies you work for.
I would say my greatest achievement with the place I'm with now was my ability to walk in with fresh eyes and see the upgrades and the updates that needed to be done, and to help talk people into or help change happen with that company. Prior to COVID, we had 32 people. After COVID, we've got 11, and we're still standing and still running the same processes with fewer people. Not because we wanted to, because some of them retired. Like I said, it was older generation. But the more upgrades and the more updates and the more automated I could make things, the easier it was when people started retiring and leaving us because of the pandemic.
Okay, this job has some overlap with human resources.
Yes.
So, given your prior history, you may or may not have too much experience with unions, but let me ask the questions here. It says, describe your experience with labor relations, including interpreting and applying policies and union contracts.
The only union I know anything about was when I was 16 and got a job with Kroger. And they forced me to pay dues, if I'm just being honest, and I was always like, what are you doing for me? What do you want from me? That was kind of my take, but I was also 16, so it was like, all right, I don't know that that's an experience that qualifies. As of right now, I do 100% of the HR for Hearst. I am transitioning out, of course, to the company that purchased us, but I do deal with all of our insurance and things like that. So it's not unionized, but I do HR.
So you have a lot of HR experience?
Probably the last 3 years.
That's great. Okay. Describe the two biggest challenges you've experienced when bargaining labor contracts. Okay, how about,
Can we skip it?
well, and then describe how you're able to overcome those challenges. Is there anything similar to a labor contract you have to negotiate with other employees, pay scales?
I think yes. I mean, we always were willing to negotiate labor pay scales at start point. Since the pandemic, there has been a big push in our area to, of course, increase payroll so that you can draw in more people and get better qualified people. And I had to take that to the board of directors and the trust in order to get raises implemented so that I could hire better qualified drivers and an accountant. I got one now, yay. But yeah, I definitely dealt with trust more than anything in the board of directors on, hey, we've got to raise these and we've got to negotiate these things because we're not getting anybody at $12 an hour.
All right. So these next set of questions are on finance, control, your knowledge, skills, and abilities.
Okay.
So how do you keep up to date with changes in the financial sector trends?
I think you have to keep educating yourself. I think you have to continue education and keep classes in the background and continue to learn and develop in different areas of things. For example, like when you're applying for grants and loans and PPP loans and things like that, you've got to learn and you've got to find the resources that help you adapt and learn those things in order to get those things completed.
So what size budgets have you worked with, and what do you find challenging about budgeting?
I want to say our max budget at Green Metals when we did that was 10 million. And you had to divide that over the 17 locations, and you had to monitor and adapt each location depending on what their needs were. Because at Green Metals, you had a non-metallic and a metallic industry, and we always knew the metal side was going to make more money. So you had to streamline money over there much more frequently than you did over on the non-metallic side. The non-metallic side was very, very simple because there was a set amount pretty much every single day that Toyota was going to pay you to do things. On the metallic side, it was larger and a much larger scale because we weren't just dealing with Toyota. We were dealing with hundreds of other companies and stainless steel and all that. So you had certain things that you could do to say, okay, this budget's got to go to the left, this budget's got to go to the right, and then you just had to follow what you set up and the criteria for it.
What are the key elements to successful financial planning and budgeting?
I think you have to be real. You can't set goals that are unreachable and unattainable. I think you have to negotiate where necessary and have the ability to understand those negotiations. That if you're saying, oh, you're gonna buy pencils this year for $20, that's probably not realistic, that's not gonna happen, especially in the market today. And to say, 5 years from now, you'll be able to go back to that, probably not, it's just gonna keep going up, up, up. So I think you just have to be very realistic when you're looking at creating a budget.
Okay. What measures do you use to assess an organization's financial performance?
I guess it depends on the organization. When we were with Green Metals, it was the bottom line. If there wasn't a net income and we weren't profitable, then Toyota wasn't gonna be happy. But we also had to match and meet and help with sister companies. There were 25 other companies that were also under the Toyota umbrella, and we had to help them meet their goals as well. So when we're looking at our bottom line, we gotta not kill their bottom line and kind of mingle the two together. So, I think the big thing is just watching out for each other, and the bottom line is important, but you have to maintain a certain level of expenses to qualify for different things in the future, so.
Okay. How do you ensure that regulations and policies are fully complied with by the finance department?
I think you have to do audits, internal and external, and I think you have to involve the entire team, the accounting team in that. I think, when I was at Green Metals, one of the really neat things that we did is we were involved with Toyota Two-Show, who was the parent company of us, and every 3 months, we had to do a self-audit, and we had to understand what we were doing wrong, and we had to return those results to Two-Show, and once we did that, 3 months later, they would come in and do an audit on top of what we audited, to make sure that, hey, you're living by these policies and practices.
Okay, I have a couple questions here. These are ungraded, but just for information purposes.
Okay.
So Ms. Workman, if selected for this position, what are your salary expectations?
I would like to start close to 120, and also have some kind of relocation assistance.
All right, and then if you were selected for this position, when are you available to start?
I would like to give Hearst, at least a 2-week notice, and then probably a week to move. But that would also depend on, does anybody know a good realtor? Anybody know anybody renting? Is there a place to stay? How do I get here?
Yeah, we don't have answers for that right now.
Oh, well.
We do know good realtors.
That's not helpful.
We do know good realtors, but
Right.
there is a housing shortage here.
Right,
So you have to you just kind of have to be lucky and in the right place at the right time.
right.
So, I think we can have more conversations about that in a little bit. So,
Okay.
good. All right. Do you have any other questions about the community, the board, anything for the board here, or about the position?
I do not. I got a good travel guide yesterday, and we went around the community. It was very, very interesting, the things going on, the things that have been upgraded and developed.
See, I don't think the board knew that. Ms.
Oh.
Workman, Elizabeth showed Ms. Workman around the community and to the different departments and introduced you to your staff.
Good.
Around.
It was like half a day. Good. It was very interesting. I enjoyed it.
Okay, at this time, I'll open it to the board to ask you any specific questions about your work history or motivations or qualifications.
Okay.
Mine would be, do you realize there's no Walmart and we're 250 miles away from anyone?
Well, I grew up in Midway, Kentucky. It's all horse farms. We didn't have a grocery store. We didn't have a stoplight. We didn't have a stop sign. So I'm kind of used to that background. I like it small. I like,
But in Kentucky where there's a lot of small towns,
right,
everything Nathanville or whatever,
right.
and you've got proximity to within a few miles of someplace. Here, your next closest community is 187 miles. And that makes a difference sometimes when you're looking and you say, whoa, because shopping and being able to do different things and moving from east to west is night and day.
Yeah.
So it's the question I have, are you aware that there is very limited shopping and very limited, there's no airport really per se, there's no transportation out of here except for your own vehicle.
Right.
And I'm just bringing you up to date on probably some of the things Elizabeth talked to you about already, but I think as you come in blind, you should be aware
like I said, we drove all over the community. I did realize there's a small airport, but you can't use it for
Right.
commercial flights. I actually flew into Vegas, and like I said, I drove 4 hours. So I realized the distance between here and there.
Okay.
And I do think it'll be a little change for me, but Midway is probably 45 minutes from Georgetown, which is your closest Walmart. The next biggest city close to us is probably 30 minutes away, which is for sales. And they got a Kroger and a few restaurants. So it's kind of my norm. I like the small community feel.
From, I guess, how to put this, definitely being in public, you know, the criticisms that you'll get from public, you know, being in the public eye, is a lot different than private industry. How do you see yourself handling those and, you know, letting water roll off the duck's back, if you will?
I guess you have to just be objective to what people say and what people think. I don't necessarily think I'm an argumentative person, but at the same time, I don't know that I won't have an opinion either way, one side or the other. And most of the time, when I voice opinions, I like to say, okay, this is your way, this is my way, can we meet in the middle? And there has to be middle ground on those things.
To follow up on that, I think more what Travis is asking, which is kind of an important question, I hadn't thought, so good job. Are you emotionally prepared for people in this community to possibly hate you for no reason and
Absolutely.
and lie about you and just, yeah.
Well, and I think my experience with Green Metals, which was Toyota bound, and because we had all the sisters and all the departments and everybody had to be connected, I think there was a lot of he said, she said stuff there, kind of the same situation where people were like, I either hate your guts or I really, really like you, one way or the other. And you had to deal with those people every single day, so I don't feel like it's an issue, and I don't feel like I'm an emotional roller coaster, so I can probably just kind of take it, brush it off, move on.
In fairness, the size of that company might be the same as our population, I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
I think that probably my biggest concern would be, and it would be in regard to your, the government, the public sector, and the different requirements so far as that. I mean, to a certain extent, budgeting is budgeting,
Right.
but there's, you know, some differences in the public sector versus the private. Although I do imagine that with working under Toyota and the different, probably compliance things that you had to work with, you know, I just didn't know how you felt about that, how, so far as your ability to, you know, it looks, I read through your background and stuff, and it sounds like you've had an awful lot of experience in a lot of different areas, which is good.
Right.
So I think that, you know, that you would probably be fully capable, but how you felt.
I guess the government side of it makes me slightly nervous because you're right, I don't know the lingo and I don't know the, but in college you take a government accounting class, so it was a long time ago. I guess my plan would be as soon as I got here and got the position, I would enroll into a college class. Either online, something I can do at night, or a night class, either way, to help me catch up on the government policies and procedures.
Okay, appreciate that.
And that would also help me with a CPA class.
So you have your bachelor's degree, but you don't have your master's degree?
No.
Is that also on the horizon for you, or you
I
just want
think
the
that you
CPA?
can, so when I graduated, I was like, ugh, I'm so tired and exhausted, I don't wanna go for my CPA right now. But what I should have done is I should have continued my education and got my CPA then and there. It would have been much easier to do. So I am currently enrolled in an online class that I can take as I want, when I want. And if, it's not very motivating when you're trying to take care of a company and sell a company and different things going on in my life. But I believe my plan would be to re-enroll and finish a master's degree and hopefully get my CPA through those steps of a master's program. And there are several online universities that offer that. It's just a matter of, do I have time, do I have energy? What am I doing with my personal life that is it required?
not have known, but White Pine County has an educational reimbursement policy. for-
Yeah, and you have small community college.
Yeah.
Use that. Yep.
All right, are there any other questions for this candidate? Okay, Richard, anything else?
No.
Okay, well, excuse you, while they're gonna grade some areas of the presentation real quick, there's 5 more questions, or areas they're gonna look at for the
Okay.
grading, and then we'll call you back in.
All right,
Thank you very much, Ms. Workman.
Thank you.
And then, after your grading, we'll take a quick 5-minute break.
Candidates, if they want to come on or stay out for deliberations. I know we did that for the county managers.
I'll just ask him.
I need more water. Oh, God, I'm done first. I must have had something salty for lunch. Not to worry, don't worry.
This has been a Georgetown production. George Chatchis reporting.